Hello everyone. Good morning. Good morning. I'm Pastor David. As introduced, I'm 청년부's pastor, young adult pastor, and I've been working as an office mate with Pastor John for over 3 years now. And I really, truly enjoy working with him and having fun with him. Do you? Yes, yes. I think you all probably know how clever Pastor John is, right? He is very wise and sometimes he's very strategic. Strategic. What I mean is, for example, last month I had to preach in KM service and 3 times on one Sunday. But I still have 청년's service again. So, which means 4 times in one Sunday. I was really overwhelmed at the time. And Pastor John, at that very moment, voluntarily offered me to do it one. So that's great. How lovely it is, right? So I accepted with his offer with gratitude. And as a sign of my gratitude, I treated him a meal. I treated him a meal. And then the service was great, full of his genuine private stories and his sense of humor, only except the fact that the sermon lasted 53 minutes. No jokes, 53 minutes. So that was the longest sermon since I came here, right? So then, in the very next week, he invited me to preach for the Lifeway. Invite me to preach for the Lifeway. How can I say no? It's impossible, right? So I had to say, I'd love to. Perhaps I think Pastor John had already calculated everything. Don't you think? I think so. He hasn't treated me a meal. We will see how it goes, okay? When he returns, we will see how it goes. Anyway, I sincerely enjoy being with you. I truly do. I truly do. I love your energy. I love your atmosphere. I love your band. I love your LED screen. I love your smoke thing. I really love this. And then I love you guys. I love you guys. Your multicultural atmosphere and vibe. I love this. I love this. And then one of the colleague pastors here in IKPC, I've been observing Lifeway ministry to be flourishing more and more. I'm not talking about the numerical growth, but I'm very impressed by how your ministry is becoming more balanced, progressive, and professional in various ways, right? You guys become a great example of a flourishing community in this church. I mean it. I mean it. So seeing this bring me a great joy, and I learn a lot from you. For example, in all the settings, I learn a lot. I would apply it to 청년부, okay? So you guys have set a great stone for us. Well done, guys. Well done, guys. So the message I want to talk and share with you is from Psalm 133. It only has 3 verses, and then I will read it to you. Psalm 133, a song of ascents, David. Behold, how good and pleasant it is when brothers dwell in unity. It is like the precious oil on the head, running down on the beard of Aaron, running down on the collar of his robes. It is like the dew of a Hermon, which falls on the mountains of Zion. For there the Lord has commanded the blessing, life forevermore. So, even though it has only 3 verses, it becomes really, really famous. I think it's because of the beautiful expression in verse 1, right? So let us read it together in 2 versions. So number 1, let's go. 1, 2, 3. Behold, how good and pleasant it is when brothers dwell in unity. And in NLT version, let's go. 1, 2, 3. How wonderful and pleasant it is when brothers live together in harmony. How wonderful and pleasant it is when brothers live together in harmony. This verse becomes so well known that almost every church uses it as a basis for church unity, right? So you all know that, right? So then I was thinking about it very seriously. So what was David actually meant by dwell in unity or live in harmony? If you have at least some knowledge of history of Israel, think about it for a moment. Have they ever united so close that they dwelt in unity as beautifully as David described today? I don't think so. I don't think so. The people of Israel were very divisive, if you will, sometimes rebellious and disobedient to the authority. So from the 40 years of wandering in the desert to the reign of King David, they'd always have political turmoil, rebellions, and the competitions and divisions among the 12 tribes. David himself was nearly killed by King Saul because of political jealousy, right? At least 4 times. And he was even driven out by his own son Absalom, right? So, what kind of unity did he envision in his mind that it was so wonderful and pleasant? Think about it. Think about it. And I was able to get a hint from the title of the psalm, which is a song of ascent. A song of ascent. Well, I usually prefer English version than Korean version. Sometimes it's really correct. But in this case, I think Korean version gives more information. It is written in Korean, a song for going up to the temple. The song for going up to the temple. So David composed this song while going up to the temple, specifically Jerusalem temple. So the temple is situated on a high hill. So in order to reach the temple, David had to go up the hill through the Kidron Valley. It is about 3 or 4 times higher than Mount Bonnell. We love together every month, right? So you know how high it is. So it is not that high, but still quite high. And then the terrain is very rugged. And given the hot and dry weather there, the ascending itself must have been kind of challenging for David. Nevertheless, David was filled with joy and composed this beautiful song. I imagine David sweating profusely from climbing the hill, yet filled with joy. And he's humming this beautiful song. So the lyric came out of his gut. Then, what about the temple made him so joyful? What about the temple made him so joyful? Think about it. You know, the normal response to the temple is, if I may, boring, right? Yeah, that's true. But what is it thinking? David is thinking about the temple system and the willful unity within that system. What I mean is, in the temple, as you know, there are many groups of people. The high priest, the priests, the Levites, and the sacrifice inspectors, and temple custodians, offering collectors, and etc., right? They are called leaders of the temple, if you will. Then the regular people who come to offer sacrifices. And as a whole, we call them a temple community. We call them a temple community or temple system. And each group of people voluntarily obey the order according to the authority and duty given by God. Some oversees the entire sacrifice process. Some handle the offerings only. and some take care of the various equipment of the temple, you know that, and some manage the temple building itself, and on and on and on. So the system is not about who is the highest and whose job is the most important. It is all about joyfully carrying out their task is given by God with an obedient mindset for the unity of the community. That's God's order. That's God's order. And this order is not about hierarchy, but about willful obedience. Everyone maintains their position, harmonizes with others, thus form a complete unity. The Israelites have done it very well throughout the history. Then what happened? God blesses the people. God blesses the community as a whole. The people receive cleansings of sins through the sacrifices within the temple system. Every time they came to the temple, they experienced the purification and became holy people again. And after the service, after the sacrifice, the people shared the meat of the offerings together, which is the same idea with the Holy Communion today. To this community, God rejuvenated the spirits of the people and proclaimed they are the children of God. All of this happened in the temple system, in the temple community. So this is a vertical unity between the Creator God and the created people, and at the same time is a horizontal unity among the holy people who have received the forgiveness of sins. And then at the cross section is the temple. David sees this. David sees the importance of the temple, and he proclaimed, where else in the world will he find such a beautiful community? Only in Jerusalem temple. He was filled with joy. You know, David is a poet, right? And he's also a man after God's heart. So his poetic imagination combined with God's perspective engraved in his heart led him to realize the mystery and the beauty of temple system. He's seeing the temple from God's spectacles. How wonderful and beautiful it is. How wonderful and beautiful it is. That is why the beautiful poetic expression came out of his mouth. This is exactly how God sees the people of Israel through the temple. And more importantly, the temple community is a worship community. That is the church today. That is the church today. Therefore, we need to once again realize how blessed we are as we have this beautiful worship community here. It's not Pastor John's. Neither is Elder Hyun's. Nor anyone else's. It's but Jesus's, the sole head of the church, right? Jesus has set aside his community for the spiritual rejuvenation of you guys. We know we are not perfect. We are not perfect. The worship community has always had conflicts and issues both in the past and now. If you read Exodus, Numbers, and Acts, you can see how much conflict and discord there were within the worship community. The saved people still live according to their own personality, their own thought, and have stubbornness, right? And their backgrounds, their economic situation, their social status, their political preferences, and then the philosophies all differ. It's okay. It's okay. Despite the diversity, when they gather together as a temple community, they willfully restrained their individuality for the unity of the community. The high priest stood as the high priest, the Levites as the Levites, the common people as common people, standing in the positions as God ordered them to be. You know, Jewish people are very unique. Well, not all, but mostly. When I was in my 20s, I spent kind of half of a year with a group of people came over 110 countries. And one of the most outstanding people are the Israelites. They have a strong personality. They have a strong national pride. And they are very strong in and have great strong conviction in what they believe is right? Normally, when such people gather together, they often become individualistic, right? But that's not the case with the Israelites. They are unique, but also they're very collectivistic. They love together. I mean it, they love together. I visited Jerusalem Temple 6 years ago, and I had a chance to watch a Jewish coming of age ceremony, which happens when boy or girl become 13. And then let's see how it looks like. I recorded myself. Yeah, that's it. All right. That's great. So that's the vibe. So the highlight of the event is everyone coming and dancing together. You know, they didn't know each other. But they come together to celebrate. Even the passing soldier joined in. She is not the member of the family, but she joins and then she dances. So that was really great to see. Isn't it pleasant? And on the plane to Israel from Seoul, the majority of passengers were Israelites. I think except us, our group, probably 10, 15. So at first, they were really calm and gentle. But soon, they began to chat with each other. Then the people around them joined in the dialogue, and some were sitting on the armrest, talking and laughing very loudly, as if it were kind of inner city bus in Korea back in the 70s. You know what I'm saying? You know, it is what a mess. This is a plane. You guys are not supposed to do that. And they get it together and talking with everything. It becomes kind of messy, and the students had to excuse them to pass. So that was a really interesting experience for me. They love to gather together. They love to gather through that. And the image that I got from that experience is that each person's individuality remains distinct, yet as a group, they create a unique color. For example, when water paint gets mixed, it loses its original color. See the bottom part. Yeah, it looks like this. So it becomes darker, but in contrast, oil paint maintains its original color when it mixed, right? Creating a unique beauty. Like this. So in my opinion, the image of Jerusalem community is more like the second picture. So individuality is distinct, but as a whole, create a beautiful new color. I think that's what God wants us to do. Then David shifts his focus to the high priest. Verse 2, it is like the precious oil on the head, running down on the beard of Aaron, running down on the collar of his robes. So in those days, when a high priest was appointed, he was anointed on his head with precious oil. And this action signifies setting apart for a special purpose. Then the anointed priest stand between God and the people, serving as a channel for atonement and blessing. Aaron is the first high priest who represents the entire high priesthood. And then the precious oil poured on the head flows down his beard, his robes, onto the collar. Now, let's see the high priest's robe. It's shown like this. You see, the turban on the head symbolizes holiness, as well as the anointing oil. And then the beard symbolizes his wisdom and experience. And then the flowing robe represents his character and his personality, like gentleness, openness, meekness, loving character, something like that. And then the collar at the bottom represent the congregation. So the oil flows down from his head, which is holiness, through his beard, which is his wisdom and experience, through his robe, which is his character and personality, to the collar, which is the congregation. Now do you see? This is how God blesses us. This is how God blesses us. God's blessings flows through the whole aspect of the high priest personality and permeates the entire church. This is how God blesses us. And verse 3, it is like the dew of Hermon, which falls on the mountains of Zion. Israel then and now receives very little rainfall, right? However, when you go to Israel, you will realize there are abundance of water. The Jordan River runs throughout the entire land, and then there were Sea of Galilee and then the Sea of Dead Sea. So, where does the water come from? It comes from the dew that falls on the Mount Hermon. Dew? Really? If you can't believe, let's see the second video that I recorded. This is it. This is the water coming out of the dew.
스프링입니다. 물량이 보통이 아닙니다.
Yes, that's it. The voice is mine. So the Mount Hermon is the highest point of the terrain. And the dew is just like God's grace. We don't notice dew comes, right? Just like God's grace is coming. And then the dew comes every day. And then without God's grace, we can't live even a day, right? That's it. So dew is just like God's grace. And then the dew, just like dew comes from the top of the mountain to the bottom, the grace of God flows from the top leaders throughout the entire congregation. So, spiritually speaking, the high priest, the priest, the Levites are the first to receive the dew. They are the first to be saturated in grace. Then the grace flows over the entire church with life-giving power. So the principles of unity in the church is insightfully encapsulated in this short poem. The unity we seek is not a uniformity where individuality and different voices disappear. Each color remains distinct, but when they come together, they create a different, beautiful color. And through the spirituality, character, and personality of the pastor established by the Lord, the precious oil flows through the entire people. Then the grace of God comes from the top leadership, through the elders, through the deacons, through the shepherd leaders, through the staff members, through your team leaders, to the entire church. Right? That is God's design of the church. That is God's design of the church. There, God issues a command. Verse 3, second part. For there, God, Lord has commanded. The Lord has commanded the blessing, life forevermore. So, just like God commanded in Genesis 1, let there be light. And there was light, right? The blessings and then the everlasting life are abundant among the people. That's God's design. And interestingly, God commands is there. God commanded there, which means in the temple, not in heaven. Because God is so eager to bless us, He came down upon us and exists among us and command the blessing. You are my people. Receive my blessings. This is church. This is church. This is what the worship community is. So the reason why we are blessed community is not because we do something well. It's because God commands the blessings. God commands the blessings. God blesses us in the church that He established, through the pastors that He anointed, from the leaders the church appointed, to the entire church. This is not about who is high, who is low. This is a willful obedience to maintain the order of the church. So, in order for us to become a community of such blessings, one thing we all need to strive for is unity. We must have a heart that accepts differences. So whenever you see some different people, remember the oil paint. And at the same time, we need to keep our position to maintain the order of the church. I would particularly encourage you to love Pastor John and Elder Hyun and all the deacons and your leaders. This is not for them. This is for us. This is for us. This is how God blessed the church according to the Bible. Love your pastor. It's a gift from God for this church. Then pastor's brightness, sense of humor, spiritual insightfulness, and his character will become the channel of God's blessings for this community. I would love to see the Lifeway community be even more flourishing with God's blessings. And I'm sure this is going to happen because it is God's command and the covenant. Amen. Let us have a special time of blessings. In Numbers chapter 6, God instructs Aaron, the first high priest, to bless the people in this way. He particularly let Aaron know each word, right? And let me read this. Numbers chapter 6, verses 24 through 27. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make His face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up His countenance upon you and give you peace. So shall they put my name upon the people of Israel, and I will bless them. Let us have time of mutual blessings. Would you please stand up? Would you please stand up? And the leaders of this congregation, please bless the members. And then the members of this congregation, please bless your leaders. Do it sincerely. This is how God wants us to be. This is how God teaches us to bless with each other so that we can be a blessed community. And let us sing exactly coming from Numbers chapter 6.